Is functional fitness so much better than traditional training that we don't even need to do traditional training anymore? Or is traditional training so much better than functional fitness that who needs all these silly movements and exercises that the functional fitness devotees consider so important? Well, today we're going to look at both sides, look at the pros and the cons, and decide which one is best for you. Is there one that is actually better? And most importantly, is there one that is actually better for first responders? Welcome to First Responder Fitness with Carl Wimmer, where armor is forged through mental, spiritual, and physical preparation. Welcome to First Responder Fitness with Carl Wimmer. I am your host, Carl Wimmer, and it is an absolute honor to be with you again today, wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it be on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you download your podcast. I want to welcome you and thank you for tuning in. How are things going this year? I hope you are doing well. I hope you are motivated. I hope you are accomplishing your goals and the resolutions you set for yourself. We are well into 2025 now. And you know what? Most people that set their goals, set their resolutions have failed. I hope you're not one of them. If you are, and if you need help, just know we are here for you. We're here to help you. And I would just point you to our YouTube page or our Spotify page where we have videos set aside. They're extra videos set aside for you. They are the Habits to Healthy in 1 year. It is the Habits to Healthy in 1 year program that we are offering to you for free at no charge whatsoever. And all you have to do is watch these videos, go to our link tree, download the PDF that is completely free, and start following along with us for the next year. As you do that, you will start stacking small miniature habits every single month that by the time you get finished a year from now, you will have completely changed your metabolic health. You will be well on the way to recomping your body, losing fat, gaining muscle, being mentally strong, physically fit, and your health and longevity will be much improved. So I would just encourage you to jump on board with the Habits to Healthy in 1 year program. Well, I'm ecstatic. I'm so excited to bring you this episode today, because this episode we're going to dive into something that is been widely debated. In fact, we're going to something that depending on who your personal trainer is or who the fitness coach is or who the fitness influencer is, they all have an opinion on this. They all lean one way or the other. And today we're going to be discussing what is better, functional fitness routines or traditional training routines. And I know there are devotees of both. There are people who are passionate about both. And, you know, if you watch certain people talk, if you watch people on YouTube, you watch some of these fitness influencers on social media, you would think that their way is the only way. And, you know, the fact is, they may be right and they might not be right. Is their way the only way? Is functional fitness so much better than traditional training that we don't even need to do traditional training anymore? Or is traditional training so much better than functional fitness that who needs all these silly movements and exercises that the functional fitness devotees consider so important? Well, today we're going to look at both sides, look at the pros and the cons, and decide which one is best for you. Is there one that is actually better? And most importantly, is there one that is actually better for first responders? Those are the questions we're going to be looking into today. And we're going to take a deep dive. We're going to actually look at some of the science behind it, some of what the experts say. We're going to break down the pros and the cons. But before we get going, I want to ask you, which style do you prefer? Are you a functional fitness devotee, maybe a cross trainer, a CrossFit enthusiast? Or are you more of the traditional style? Do you like to focus on the isolation movements for your weight training? Let me know in the comments below before we dive in. Well, as we get into this topic, I want to first define what we're talking about, okay? It's important that we define what exactly we mean by functional fitness and traditional strength training. By functional fitness, we're talking about movement patterns that mimic real-life activities. Movements that focus on multiple joint movements, multi-joint movements, compound movements, like perhaps the power clean. The deadlift could be considered a functional fitness movement. Farmer carries, sled pulls, sled pushes, medicine ball work, medicine ball slams, those types of things. Functional fitness also focuses heavily on mobility, stability, balance, coordination. All of those are top priorities. And oftentimes you'll find functional fitness in the realm of sports training, rehabilitation, like if you injure yourself and you go into rehab, as well as injury prevention. So that's what we're talking about when we discuss functional fitness. But what about traditional strength training? What are we talking about there? Traditional strength training can be seen as training muscle groups for maximal strength and size. For instance, I'm going to go in today and work back and biceps, and going to go in and work chest and triceps. So it focuses on muscle groups, and it really focuses heavy on maximal strength and size. Typically, those who are devoted to traditional strength training train on machines or use barbells and dumbbells for isolation type movements. Think barbell curls, think overhead presses. They focus heavily on progressive overload to build strength and muscle. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a moment. Bodybuilders, powerlifters, and your general everyday Joe who goes to the gym relies, I would say most of the time, a majority of the time, on this approach, the traditional strength training style. One way you could look at this is as a real life example would be like, think of a firefighter carrying someone down a flight of stairs. That's definitely a functional fitness type activity. Whereas a bodybuilder doing a preacher curl to build their arm size, that's traditional strength training. Or a power lifter who comes in and focuses heavily on increasing their bench press through progressive overload. That would be an example of traditional strength training. So which one is more effective? The answer largely depends on your goals. So let's just look at some of the research. So the research, it may not surprise you to learn, varies in which approach is best. And again, it varies depending on your goals. For instance, a 2022 study in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research found that athletes who incorporated functional movements improved their explosive power and agility faster than those who only lifted weights traditionally. So if you want to improve your explosive power or your agility at a more rapid pace, functional fitness might be the answer for you. Dr. Stuart McGill, who is a spine biomechanic expert, said functional training that mimics real-life movements reduces injury risk and builds more useful strength than isolated exercises alone. Okay. However, in 2016, a meta-analysis from Sports Medicine found that traditional resistance training is superior for building hypertrophy, for building muscle, for muscle growth, and for maximal strength gains. So traditional strength training builds more maximal strength. It builds more muscle mass. The other one builds more explosive power and agility. Interesting. Dr. Brett Contreras said, if your goal is maximum strength and muscle, nothing beats traditional weight training with progressive overload. Now, what is progressive overload? Very simply put, it is making your workouts harder as you go along. For instance, if you just first day in the gym and you bench press 100 pounds 5 times, and it takes everything you've got to do it 5 times, but you keep going and you keep improving, and 6 months later, you're much bigger, much stronger, but you're still bench pressing 100 pounds 5 times, that is not going to push you to get stronger, nor will it push your body to grow muscle. You need progressive overload, which means you're making as you get stronger, as you get bigger, you're making your lifts harder. So you add more weight over time. You add more sets over time. You add more reps over time. You make it tougher. You work out harder. That is progressive overload. Now, what about hybrid training? A 2019 study in the Journal of Applied Physiology found that combining traditional strength training with functional exercises led to greater overall performance improvements than doing either one alone. Performance improvements. Now, how do you define performance improvements? How are they measuring that? What were they measuring? Without going deep into the analysis of that particular study, we don't know the answer. But what we can say is this. Dr. Andy Galpin, who I highly respect, and who is, he's a muscle physiologist and an expert in the industry. He says this: hybrid training is the future. You need traditional strength work for maximum power, and functional movement training and mobility, or movements for mobility, endurance, and injury prevention. You see that where it says if you want to be stronger, traditional strength training for the maximum power, but functional movement for mobility, endurance, and injury prevention. Ultimately, both training styles have their place. The best approach depends on your goals, but combining them might be the ultimate training method. What is the ultimate training method? Depends on your goals. Right now, for myself, I am following more of a traditional strength training program. That is what I have done most of my life. When I was a world champion powerlifter, I focused heavily on traditional strength training, improving my bench press, improving my squat, improving my deadlift. And today, I am focused more on hypertrophy, getting ready for the summertime, getting ready for swimsuit season, getting ready and also making sure that I keep my body fat low, keep my muscle content high. And the older you get, the more important it is to pack on muscle and get rid of body fat. You've got to combat your body's natural instinct to lose muscle as you get older. And so working out in a traditional method helps you to really keep the muscle on the muscle that you have built up over the years. It helps to keep that right there where it belongs. It helps it to where your body doesn't lose it. And so it's important to me. Those things are important to me. But why does this matter to a first responder? How should you, as a first responder, or let's say you're not even a first responder, let's say you're a fitness enthusiast following this channel, and I thank you for being here. I try to make this information applicable not only to first responders, but to everyone who's interested in building muscle, losing fat, being healthy, being mentally healthy. I try to make this applicable to everyone. But why does this matter to those in the first responder field? Well, I think it's obvious why it matters, because being a police officer, being a firefighter is not just about, fitness is not just about looking good. It's about being able to perform under extreme conditions, okay? Throughout a 20-year career as a police officer, you may only get into a handful of physical altercations. But when you get into those physical altercations, you need to be able to perform and perform well. And so it's very important for first responders that we focus on which approach is better. If you are a firefighter, very important. Just recently, within the last month or so, with all of the big fires in California, we saw where, I don't know who she is, the assistant chief or one of the assistant chiefs for the LA Fire Department, who is obviously overweight, obviously really soft, has, in my estimation, sorry if this offends you, but she has absolutely zero business being in the firefighting service, because she talked about how she gets criticized because how are you going to be strong enough to go and lift my husband out of a fire? And her response is, well, maybe your husband shouldn't be in a fire, and just snarky nonsense. No, if you sign up, and I said this at the very beginning when we first started First Responder Fitness, you give up the right to be fat, soft, and lazy when you enter into public service as a firefighter or as a police officer. When you sign on the dotted line and say, I'm going to go protect people and property, you, by the very nature of the job you have signed up to do, you have given up the right to be soft, weak, unable to perform. When I saw that assistant fire chief say that, my blood boiled, because she doesn't get it. I'm sorry, she doesn't get it. So offensive and so twisted in the mindset. You want firefighters and police officers who can defend you and defend your property. And so that's why what we're talking about today is so critically important. Functional fitness helps first responders. It improves your agility. It improves your mobility. It helps prevent injury. If you're chasing someone, jumping over a fence, if you get into a fight and you're not stretched out and warmed up, having a base that is grounded in functional fitness is irreplaceable. Functional fitness builds your core and your grip strength. Very important for lifting heavy equipment or people. Pulling hose is not easy. Carrying hose, not easy. Doing the things that a firefighter needs to do, not easy. Functional fitness helps that. Functional fitness also helps improve and enhance your stamina, your endurance, which is needed for long shifts and emergency situations. A study in the Journal of Occupational Medicine back in 2021 found that firefighters who did functional training reduced injury rates by 35%. compared to those who only lifted weights traditionally. 35% injury rate prevention and reduction is huge. Very important that if you're in the first responder community, that you're doing functional fitness. However, I told you multiple times now that one of the greatest benefits I had as a SWAT team leader, as a police officer, was the fact that during those times, I was also a world champion powerlifter. And being one of the strongest people really around at the time, knowing that I was stronger than most of the people that I was dealing with, and being able to control most of the people that I needed to control physically because I was so much stronger than them was irreplaceable. So traditional strength training helps first responders because it increases your absolute unadulterated strength, which is needed for lifting heavy objects or fighting or wrestling with people or pushing a car or whatever the case may be. Traditional strength training builds muscle mass, which protects your joints from injury. Being more muscular, being larger, having more muscle tissue helps you survive dynamic and ballistic incidents that happen in the first responder community. Traditional strength training also enhances bone density at a far greater rate than functional fitness, which reduces your risk of fractures. So what do we do? Well, one particular firefighter who was interviewed for Tactical Strength and Conditioning magazine said, I need strength to haul heavy hoses and gear, but I also need to be quick and agile. That's why I mix heavy lifting with functional fitness. And that is what we recommend here at First Responder Fitness. I do not care which one you choose as your core base exercises. If you prefer functional fitness exercises, the power cleans, the kettlebells, the balance and mobility, then go ahead and stick with it. If that's what gets you to the gym, if that's what motivates you, then do it. Now, I'm not talking about this silly, ridiculous nonsense, and maybe I should be a little more gentle, but standing on the Bosu balls and doing your exercises while it's on a ball and that kind of thing, okay, that's taking things to the extreme. You're getting very little bang for your buck when it comes to strength. You're getting some balance work in there, and balance work is important, so you can add some of that if you want, but I'm talking about functional fitness, cross-training style of fitness. Very important, very good. Flexibility, mobility, so important. As I get older, my hip and knee mobility is getting worse, and so I like to do more of that. Or maybe you're the type that wants to go in and get jacked and you want to do the traditional style of lifting, and that's what gets you to the gym. That's what motivates you. That's what pushes you every day. Thumbs up to you. Keep doing it. But I highly recommend that whichever camp you are in, that you implement both into your routine. An example of that could be maybe start with, let's say that you're a traditional lifter. You start with heavy bench press, okay? You want that bench press to be big and strong, so you go in and do heavy bench press. And then you could follow the heavy bench press up with some medicine ball or medicine chest throws for some functional power or some kettlebell work. Then you could add in maybe some weighted dips for strength, stability, flexibility. See, all three are working your chest and your triceps and your upper body, this upper body movements, but they're a little bit different. And then you can finish with maybe some battle ropes that it works your endurance and your grip strength, or do some dead hangs, or do some farmer carries. I love farmer carries, and I do farmer carries usually on my leg or back day, depending on what I have going on that week, depending on what I did earlier in the week. What I like to do is I like to do traditional farmer carries, but then sometimes I'll put a step, a block or a step in the way. So as I am going through my farmer carry, I have to then step up using one leg, step up on the block, put both feet on top, and then step down 1 foot at a time. When you have an additional 200 pounds, 250 pounds, 280 pounds in your hands, it doubles your weight. It triples your weight in some cases, and it makes it very, very difficult. And so I like to do things like that. I like to do sled pulls and sled pushes, heavy sled pushes, just making sure that my entire body has some of this functional ability. I focus on flexibility because my hips and my knees need more flexibility. My base workouts are traditional strength training methodology, and then I throw in some of the functional fitness. A lower body workout, a hybrid lower body workout could be you start with heavy squats, and then follow that with kettlebell swings for explosive functional power. Add step-ups with dumbbells or step-ups, farmer walk step-ups, and finish with some kind of heavy core exercise. Your single-handed farmer walk is a great core exercise. It forces you to stay upright. You tighten your core and you walk with the weight in one hand. Don't let it pull you to the side. So many different ways you can do this. So at the end of the day, for first responders, and I dare say for all of you watching, I say pick what you prefer. If you lean more towards functional fitness, fantastic. If you lean more towards traditional strength training, wonderful. But we are not enemies. We are all part of the iron brother and sisterhood, and we should learn from one another, and we should implement things that benefit us in our professional life and in our career. That is important. Many of you work with people who have preferences. I'll never forget. I may have told you this story once before, but I worked in a fairly violent area during my career. And at one point, one summer, we were doubled up in cars. And my buddy, my partner that particular summer, was a very fast runner. He loved CrossFit. He loved everything to do with CrossFit. He watched the CrossFit games. He participated in cross training exercises. He was a sprinter. He was very fast. He was very fit. He was also much smaller than I was. And we had this thing. He says, all right, Wimmer, listen. He says, listen, I know you like to fight. I don't. I mean, look at my face. It's so pretty. I can't get it messed up. And he says, but I'm fast. And you're kind of slow. It's like, matter of fact, you're real slow. He says, so here's what we're going to do. If someone runs from us, I'll catch them, but you better haul your butt really fast. You better get your ass there because I'm not getting this messed up. Well, I swear it was like 2 nights after he told me that. We're patrolling, and we see a guy who he was wanted. He was wanted for a couple different things, and we saw him walking through an apartment complex. We're like, that's him. Let's get him. So we get out of the vehicle to stop him, and he takes off running. And so my partner takes off running, and they are gone into the night. And the bad guy goes over the fence, and my partner goes over the fence. I go through the fence, and we're just going and going and going, and they are just leaving me in the dust, okay? Because they're quick, they're fast, they're explosive, they're over the ditch, they're over the playground, they're over the fence, they're under this, they're over that. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And, I'm 280-pound powerlifter. off in the distance, I hear my partner yelling, and I can tell he's not dying, but he's yelling, Wimmer, Wimmer, and I'm running as fast as I can. I come around the corner of this building, and there he is, and he has him at his arms fully extended like this. He's got his face away from him like this. He's like, get him, Wimmer, get him. And so I come and I plow the guy, and well, we took him into custody, and we all lived happily ever after. That is a perfect example of how the functional fitness and the traditional fitness worked together. But it would have been, I'm not kidding when I say it would have been nice if I could have been a little bit faster, if I could have been a little bit more agile, had a little more flexibility when going over the ditch, had a little bit more ability to maneuver when running through the playground, had a little bit more ability to just be agile, flexible. And I'm not kidding when I tell you it would be nice if my partner had more power, more raw strength, because he did not have that in comparison to me. So the best of both worlds seems to be what I would recommend for 95 or 99% of you out there. Get into the gym. No matter what you do, the most important thing is that you are consistent at it. You're consistent at it month after month, year after year, clear into your retirement so that you can live healthy, happy, and a long, prosperous life. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something. I would encourage you to subscribe, to like, to hit the bell button, comment below for the algorithm that keeps these episodes coming. I would love to engage with you. Everyone who comments on this particular video, I will respond back to you personally. So I encourage you, make a comment below, share this with your friends and family. And until next time, be good to yourself, be good to others, and as always, stay safe.